Greetings and felicitations again, my fellow perceptive purple people. Welcome to the first video of 2023. Before I get to the rest of the new videos, I wanted to take a moment to answer just a couple of questions that have been presented to me from last year's episodes. So, here we go. Since your episode on a national drive for in-orbit asteroid mining came out, NASA has been making press tours for the Artemis missions for the Moon. Does the current NASA mission conflict with our stated space goals? Not even a little bit. In fact, they tend to dovetail nicely into each other, as the stated Artemis missions are to gain in-space construction experience and to prepare necessary infrastructure for their next step of manned missions to Mars. Two of the stated primary missions of our U.S. orbital infrastructure project are the very same, though Mars is merely one of the steps in building our eventual intrasolar infrastructure for our longer-term exploration and colonization goals. In short, NASA's current plans would merely form a small part of the greater orbital infrastructure project, so it would remain intact, though absorbed into the larger plan. Are you really working on a Matrix episode, or is that just verbal clickbait? Yes. Seriously though, I am indeed working on that episode. The delay in it has to do with the sheer complexity of trying to distill an entire world of nearly infinitely connected systems of infrastructure, logistics, industry standards, governmental regulations, etc., ad nauseum, and how it all directly connects to your everyday life into a relatively short format. This, so far, seems to be a challenge of Sisyphean scale, as there are endless rabbit holes to explore and attempt to simplify. This episode is important, too, as it is intended to show these interconnections for reference and understanding of the tasks before us in the next couple of decades. Without an idea of what the system is currently doing, it will be harder to be able to engage smaller, less intrusive methods to effect the necessary changes to get the best results. Without that context, all we can do is potentially throw out the baby with the bathwater in our approach and have serious potentials of making things worse instead of better. And that's a no bueno for me. In your gun control episode regarding concealed weapons, how would a shall issue CCW for general citizenry help to reduce rather than increase gun violence? The key is in the training for said license. The Second Amendment makes it clear that training is expected for able-bodied citizens in case of a call-up of the militia. Although we now have the National Guard Reserves performing that actual function, one could sort of say that we are effectively calling up the militia regarding this issue. Since those would-be licensed have a natural tendency to want to become proficient in the handling and the use of their weapon, it's a natural extension to also prepare them for the legal landscape upon which they are about to embark. Having a multitude of reasonably trained citizens in our midst should have a much more pronounced effect on stopping these mass shootings as soon as it becomes clear that consequences can be far more immediate than having to wait for a police response while the bad guy can keep killing with impunity. Yes, there may be a couple of shocking events to begin with, but once the concept is established that the days of a free 15 to 20 minute killing spree are over, I believe that you'll see significant reductions in the initiation of these tragedies. Now, to be clear, there are a lot of other factors involved in these mass shootings, including the unnecessary allowances for weapons of war for persons who are not specially licensed for such, with appropriate requirements for that licensing. And, of course, the desperate need for restoral of our mental health services infrastructure to assist people with adapting to and coping with our ever-changing world's insanities. I'll have more on this in this year's episodes, as this is an ongoing discussion that must continue. We'll see you again soon.